Hello and welcome to the Bible Talk here at St Paul's Cathedral, the home church for Anglicans in Melbourne and Geelong. My name's Heather Pataka. I'm the Archdeacon of Melbourne sometimes, except for when I'm the precentor of the cathedral. And with me, of course, is our Dean, Andreas. Hello, Andreas.
Hello, Heather.
And Andreas is always the Dean, except for when he's the Chief Props Officer for our Bible Talks, which he is today. Today we don't have Archie with us because we will be simulating water, and unlike every other Labrador in the world, Archie's afraid of water, so we're not disturbing him today. Thank you for your correspondence. We love to hear from you. It's very lovely to receive your notes and emails, so please do send them in. Today we are Bible talking floating and focus, and we're going to start with floating. You can float or you can sink. I wonder which you are, someone who floats or sinks. Now, we have a little bowl here with water to simulate some experiments about water and floating. And we're going to start with a cork. I wonder if a cork will float on the water.
What do you reckon? Float or sink? Float.
Float. Excellent. That was wonderful. Excellent demonstration.
Just as
Andreas.
expected.
Thank you. Good. Okay, now we have some tin foil, aluminium foil. This is metal, so do you think it's going to float or is it going to sink? Well, it doesn't actually fit in the bowl, does it?
What if I crunkle it up a little bit?
Crunkle it
because
up.
then it could become heavier as well.
Oh, I see. More concentrated mass in one small area. Let's see what happens. Oh, it floats.
Floats.
Oh, okay.
Floats.
Aluminium is lighter than water, so it floats. Good. Okay, now, how about a rock? Let's try a rock.
I've got just the rock here.
Oh, terrific. Excellent. Oh, I think I see a problem already.
Right.
I don't think it's going to fit in the bowl, Andreas.
Look, it's not going to fit in the bowl, but it's going to sink.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's very heavy.
Good.
I'm
Okay.
just going to safely
You'll
put it
know
back.
because he's the one carrying it at the moment. All right. What about you, Andreas? Would you float or sink when you were in here?
Oh, look, I think I'd sink.
You'd sink. Okay. I think you're meant to float. I think people are meant to float. Anyway,
Yeah.
good. Well, now, how about a real boat? I've brought a boat along today because a boat's part of our story. Yes, a boat would float, and this one does. I've gone rowing in it. It does work very well. So, in our gospel reading from Matthew 14 this week, we hear of Jesus sending the disciples off across the Sea of Galilee as he dismisses the crowds that he's been teaching and who he'd also just provided dinner for, about 5,000 or more of them, and he was going up the mountain to pray. Now, when he finished praying, he thought he'd go and join the disciples who'd headed off across the Sea of Galilee. And unfortunately, though, there was a very big storm brewing and they were still stuck in the middle of the lake at this stage. We'll just demonstrate some waves for you near this boat so that you just get the idea. Here we are. Water pouring in everywhere, into the boat, all over the place. Good. Oh, yes, good. I think we'll retire that wave. Good. So, Jesus, though, however, wanting to get from one side to the other, didn't actually walk around like you and I would. He actually just went straight across. Yes, that's right. He walked across the water. And as he approached the boat, the disciples were terrified. Well, I mean, who wouldn't be? I mean,
Right.
How often are you out on a boat and you bump into somebody in the middle of the lake who's just walking? But Jesus called out saying, "Don't worry, don't fear, it's me." Now, what would you do in those circumstances, Andreas?
Well, I think I'd really panic in the lake, in the middle of the lake. It's a huge lake, and there's a storm, and the water is coming in, and then I'd see Jesus. I'd do a double take and go, "Is it really Jesus?"
Yeah, look, I think you're probably quite right there. I think they all did that too. You know, there's a big storm, they're having trouble sailing, and there's Jesus standing in the middle of the water. Well, do you know what Peter did? He said to Jesus, "If it's you, call me out and I'll walk on the water with you." So Jesus said, "Come on then." And so Peter did. Well, now let's pause to think about what we see going on here, because clearly Jesus is not a normal person. He's clearly someone very special. And secondly, Peter has great faith to step out of the boat like he does. Now, keeping focus is important. Whatever you're doing in life, it's important to be able to concentrate and to focus. And you might be finding it hard to concentrate and focus at present because you're doing school or uni or work from home. Maybe it's hard to concentrate too because you're worrying about the effect of COVID-19 and the lockdown Melbourne is in at present. Well, let's demonstrate how hard it can be to concentrate. I'll just get Andreas to start reading that book for me. You ready, Andreas?
Yep, yeah, here we go.
Ready, set, go.
The first time
It's quite hard to concentrate.
well, I couldn't hear myself read, and it's all those symbols.
Yes. With the lockdown, I wasn't actually able to go and get symbols, so I've just used some pot lids today. But see, you lose concentration with all that noise. Andreas was quite distracted then.
I was.
You were a bit nervous about the noise,
I
weren't you?
was a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit
I
frightening,
wasn't.
really, have it
No, I had the
in my
pots.
ear. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yes. Now, when Peter got out on the water, he lost concentration too, because the waves were all whipped up and the wind was blowing and blowing, and he stopped thinking about Jesus and started thinking about all the things that were going on about him, and then began to sink, a bit like that rock that we tried to put in the bowl would have done if we'd put it in the water. So he called out to Jesus, "Save me." And Jesus did. He put out his hand, caught him. Now, obviously, it wasn't the clashing pot lids that distracted Peter from Jesus. It was the wind and the fearful weather conditions. Well, let's pause and think about what this tells us. If we're to concentrate on following Jesus, obviously we need to be able to focus on him. Was Jesus stronger than the storm? Actually, Matthew says that he and Peter got into the boat and then two things happened. One was the storm stopped. So yes, he was stronger than the storm. And the second thing was the disciples all worshipped Jesus. They were floating and they were focusing on Jesus. How do you focus on Jesus, Andreas?
So I think that the key thing is, don't start focusing on Jesus when it's time for a crisis. Begin the focusing on Jesus first. And build up a habit of focusing on Jesus so that when the crisis comes, you can picture Jesus and his saving help. And then it's much easier to focus on Jesus because you've tried it and you've tested it beforehand. So that's the thing that Peter could have done, and Peter will do later on in his own life when he goes and speaks of the good news of Jesus to all the world. He practices focusing on Jesus. So let's focus on Jesus, even in this time.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think that is a good place to leave it today. We'll see you later. Bye for now.
See you next week.